line. It'll be
Okay.
between. Oh, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the daily live stream of Sports Community. Today's Wednesday, so Wednesday means doing sport differently, and I am absolutely excited to. Richmond won last night, so that's very exciting. But to be joined by Stella Lesic, Stella from the Bushrangers Basketball Club. Welcome to the Sports Community live stream.
Thanks for having me, Steve. This is Fritz as well. Fritz is here. Stoked to be here.
So tell us about the Bushrangers Basketball Club. Why did you create the club and when? And give us a little bit of the background.
Bushrangers Basketball started in 2015. I'd moved down from Brisbane down to Melbourne. Didn't know anyone. Wanted to get involved in the community. Wanted to make friends. And I made friends really quickly in that first month that I was here, but realised that all of the social opportunities that I had in the LGBTQIA plus community were mainly revolved around going to the pub, drinking, which is fun, but not all the time. So I wanted to start socialising with people and incorporating basketball as well. As well as that, growing up playing basketball, I felt like a bit of an outlier. So I thought, what a good opportunity. One, I can meet some friends, and two, I can start an LGBTQIA plus basketball team. So that's how it started, one team in Coburg 5 years ago.
So that's how it started, one team in Coburg 5 years ago. I know there's a fair significant middle bit to this story, but so where is it now? Like where is it now?
We've had exponential growth. So from the one team, we became two teams. And that was just as a result of being on the court and another team watching us play every week and losing horrifically, but having a really good time. And we could see at the end of the games that other teams were quite confused about how much joy we were getting out of losing. And so I think the other team that wanted to join were watching that happen every week and thinking, I want what they're having. So we became two teams. And from there we thought, well, now we've got two teams. Wouldn't it be fun if we started like a real life sporting club? So at the start, it was really just a bit of a giggle. Like, wouldn't it be a bit of a hobby? Like, this sounds like a little bit of fun. And from there, we had a 12-month strategy plan, which was to add one team. And that grew to today, which is we're at 25 teams and we're over 200 players, and we're across Australia in a range of comps.
So across Australia, when you say across Australia, you mean Darwin, you need Sydney. As I was saying before, I was reading yesterday, settled down to my morning coffee, and saw the Tassie Sport and Rec email come out, and Bushrangers Basketball is in Tassie. But it's not just Australia, you're in Auckland as well.
Yeah, we've crossed the ditch. Two ditches, I guess, Hobart and now Auckland. The Hobart contingent has been an amazing expansion. We thought, maybe it won't be as popular in Hobart, or we wouldn't get as much interest because of the population size. But as I was mentioning to you before, we had the idea for Hobart about a month ago, and now we've got 5 teams down there playing, and they're having a great time. People that did not know each other before have formed amazing friendships, and it's so pleasing to see from lockdown people being able to enjoy the sport and to socialise. It's great.
Yeah, fantastic. And I will go back to setting up the club in a tick, but there's 12 people online at the moment, so welcome to you. Please put your questions, your comments, your feedback into the post, and that'll come up on the screen, and we'll involve you in the conversation. So Roro Annette says, great opportunity for us in rural and regional areas. Thanks for a great live stream. So what is the plan? Is it to take it more broadly and create basketball opportunities more broadly?
Yes. Our next goal will probably be Adelaide, but we also have a committee set up called the GBA, which will be, sorry, not the GBA, the Queer Basketball Alliance, the QBA. So the Queer Basketball Alliance are clubs and teams across the world that are involved in LGBTQIA sports inclusion through basketball. We'll have biannual chats. We'll get together and talk about how we can improve inclusion in sport. So, yeah, I guess we've got a worldwide goal as well as a national goal. So it's getting bigger and bigger every day.
Wow. So go back to when you established the club and this hobby that seems to be becoming a little bit of an obsession. When you establish a club, you get to decide or define the culture that you want. What was the culture that you consciously created a certain type of culture, wasn't it? You take us through that process, and what was that culture you consciously made within the club?
I'd say for Bushrangers, culture is one of our keys to our success and what makes us who we are. In terms of, I can use keywords like inclusion and diversity, and I guess everybody knows what that means. But for me, growing up and playing basketball as a junior and then as a teenager and at university, I love basketball. I'm really passionate about it, but it was a real yuck experience for me. I felt like an outlier. I didn't fit in. I felt like sometimes I didn't get picked because I was an outlier. And so starting Bushrangers, the culture for me was underpinned by a bit of a, this is a Seinfeld reference, which not everyone will get, but George Costanza approach. George Costanza's life wasn't going so well, and so he decided that he was just going to do the absolute opposite for everything that he would normally do. And so I took a real George Costanza approach with basketball and culture and how I wanted the club to be, which was I wanted to do everything opposite to what I'd experienced growing up playing basketball, where you had to earn your minutes. You got pulled off if you missed the shot. That you got screamed at. You had to do, push-ups or burpees if you did something wrong. So we just did the opposite, and that's been working really well in the basketball space. Not just for the LGBTIQA plus community, because allies are welcome, just for anyone that wants to come and have a go. So that's at its core what it is, I think.
Well, and just reaffirming that and going back to a previous live stream from Dean Walton, who was the coach of the Shepparton United under-18 girls team. And he created the culture that no matter whether you kick a goal or miss the ball when you're having a kick, get the joy out of that one situation. Either is great, and create the fun out of that. And so you kind of created catch cries and just picking up, you like to use inspiration, can't catch, can't throw, we're the club for you type scenario.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just you were trying to attract not just basketballers that back to the game, but completely new basketballers to the game.
We want people that otherwise hadn't felt comfortable playing team sport, where they were the kid at school that were in the lineup and getting picked one by one and they were the last one left. And those sorts of experiences as a kid can impact your entire engagement with team sports moving forward. So, we've got a really big emphasis on can't catch, can't throw, we're the club for you. It doesn't matter if you win. We have a laugh if you throw the ball to the opposition. It's fine. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you. We get joy in those moments. And so it's not about winning for us, which takes a massive amount of pressure off people. One of the Vic Health sessions that we attended was around welcoming and around the anxiety that participants feel when they first join a club, even just turning up to a training for the first time. And that really spoke to me because I hadn't really thought about that. And so with some players, we'll set them goals for just turn up to the car park. That's all we want you to do this week. Just turn up to the car park and that's your win. And we'll celebrate that because it's so anxiety filled just getting from the car park into the stadium that they can just celebrate that. Someone will come out and say hello to them if they want. We take victories where we can get them, and it's not necessarily on the scoreboard.
Well, and that's one of the things that's come out of the Vic Health research that they've done with La Trobe Uni is that, and it was really incomprehensible for me initially to get my mind around that the biggest step for some people is that step from the car to in your case, the stadium. And that was incomprehensible to me. The other thing from years ago from starting Sports Community and looking at the research was the feeling of the LGBTIQA plus community in sport. I was never, I just never understood the feelings that you were getting and you were experiencing from sport, and which were then creating the barriers to sport. So what are the feelings that you're trying to break down, and those barriers that you're trying to break down and create that safe environment for your community?
To have visibility and pride in sexuality and gender diversity, and that those things, we're not just including you. Sometimes inclusion can feel like someone's creating a bit of space for you and letting you in. That's not really what we're about. We're about celebrating. So it's not about including, we're about celebrating and making sure that we've created a space where you're celebrated and you're also safe. We felt that basketball previously was a space where they did have member protection policies, and they're great, but it felt like inclusion was done in a punitive way, that there was a stick hanging over people to say, you've got to include or we're going to do this. Whereas Bushrangers tackles it from, we're celebrating you and this is how we're doing it, and this is the practical way that we're doing it. We're not just putting up a rainbow once a year and saying it's Pride Day, Pride Round. It's a day-to-day practical application of celebrating who you are, irrespective of the innate qualities that you have.
Yeah, I mean, it just still incomprehensible to me that someone's gender preference or sexual preferences would impact their acceptance into sport. But the one thing that the research has shown, and your club as a practical example, is that it clearly has, and there's a huge demand for creating those safe environments and encouraging in environments. So how do you ensure that you keep that culture ongoing?
Governance. The club has a really strong, we set out when we began, even with the two teams, with really strong governance around our gender and sexuality inclusion guidelines. We did a really involved consultation phase with other clubs that were existing to see what they were doing well and what they weren't doing so well. And so when someone steps into the club, it's really clear to them what's the framework that actually holds the club up. They can see it and they can touch it and they can experience it. It's not just the vibe of the thing. So I think with people that are marginalised, especially in the LGBTQIA plus community, they can smell a rat pretty quick, especially when it comes to knowing whether or not this is the place for them. Little things like there might be, we saw another sporting club online that had said that they had a really big focus on LGBTI inclusion. It's an acronym. Putting the G first for most people in the community would be a flag for, that's probably not the space for me. They can't get the acronym right. So we are really big on making sure that people know that we have put some thought into it, and that we are actively thinking about all the time, how can we be better? How can we celebrate our club base more? How can we catch that one person that's sitting on the edges or the fringes of basketball or sport or anything, just community, and bring them in closer? It's a constant think tank.
And governance is the foundation. As everyone equates governance to compliance, but governance is really the knowledge framework of your club and the behavioural framework of your club. People roll in, they roll out, the people come next. And when people come and go, what's left is the governance framework. And that's the foundation of successful clubs. But I'd suggest that it's also the foundation that's allowed you to grow into different cities and soon to be communities as you go regional and rural, and stay consistent, because it's the governance framework that's moving around, not the people necessarily, and the people behave in the way that go, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. They opt into that framework that's already strong and existing. Is that the experience you're finding?
Someone pointed out to me recently that what we've done is we've franchised culture, not just the club. And so with that thought, we created some structure around culture. If you go to our website, you'll find a culture quiz. So you can go through and take the quiz and figure out, is this the club for me? Are these the kind of cultural values that speak to me? And if they don't, There's lots of other clubs out there, but for most people, they'll go through that culture quiz and go through the questions and think, wow, this is different from what I'd normally expect at a club. Oh, if you're winning by 50 points, we shouldn't just keep smashing the club. We might have a think about a different approach about how we can make sure the other team's having fun as well, not just annihilate them. So yeah, that was a really important step. The other step that we've taken in terms of franchising culture is making sure that the teams that we start remotely, and that's become way more important during lockdown for us because physically I can't travel to other states, is setting up online catch-ups with new teams to talk about cultural values, to talk about what the club is and isn't, to talk about our history, so that when someone joins the club, they are fully aware of who it is that we are, and for them to understand that when they join the club, they're not just joining a team, they're actually also becoming like a shareholder in the culture, and they too become an agent of change where and that's where one of the doing sport differently principles applies to us in terms of showing someone a clear progression of skills. Our skill is culture. So
Yes.
not just throwing, catching, shooting. So when someone joins, they understand the culture, they become an agent of change. And when a new bushranger joins, they understand what that culture is, so that they can then do something positive for the community, make someone feel welcome, make sure they feel included. It's super important for us. I think, sorry to keep talking, Steve. You have to cut me. I'm a chatty Sally, Steve. I'll keep talking.
I'm just in awe of Fritz. He hasn't moved, hasn't said anything.
I know.
None of them behave like that.
He's too tired to be an agent of change. So with that, mental health and addressing mental health is hugely important for Bushrangers basketball, especially in the LGBTQIA plus community, especially during a time where we aren't as connected as we'd like to be with our friends and family. It's part of the reason why we've created a strong relationship with Beyond Blue and with Transgender Vic, to make sure that we're not just operating as an island of culture and an agent of change, but we're also linking in with services and support networks that will help support our member base. So we're not just working in a vacuum. Yeah. That's been super important.
It's such a great example, and if I'll just take it outside your club for a moment, I guess what we work with clubs at sports community is culture and creating the framework to create the culture, any culture that you want within your club, and the key step to that is actually defining the behaviors you do want. A lot of people, code of conduct and member protection, that's all about behaviors we don't want, but that doesn't help guide us with the behaviors that we do want. And so the key in really successful clubs, regardless of their sport, have a really strong understanding of the culture. And culture is a bit of a cliche, but culture equals behavior. In simple terms, culture is behavior. What are the behaviors that you want of people when they come into your club that are going to contribute to the goals, the success, the stability, whatever it is? And so that's where we spend so much of our time working with clubs, is defining those behaviors. Because then once you define them, exactly as you said, you've got your culture quiz. And if you want to have a look at, I'll just put that back up. If you want to have a look at that, that's the Bushrangers Basketball.com website, and you've got the culture quiz. But effectively, what that means is that people are opting into that. They're looking at it and they're making a conscious decision. Yes, I will behave that way. They've got all the information they need to decide whether this is the club for me, and it's okay if it's not.
And it is totally okay if it's not. We occasionally, and we have players have left, and that's okay. Because if they've come from a really strong basketball environment where winning is key, it's really difficult to deprogram that chip, and for you not to get whipped up in making that your priority.
Yes.
So we did talk about that at Vic Health in terms of the welcome. That really spoke to us, but there was another step that we thought about as well coming away from that Vic Health session, which was the goodbye. So if someone wants to leave, we want to find out why. So principally because it's something that we're doing. We want to figure out how we can do it better or whether we can address it. We've had conversations with players that have wanted to say goodbye recently, and we've not let them go because the reasons why they wanted to go could be fixed, and they felt like they were letting the club down by not attending because the personal factors had gotten in the way. And this happens really regularly, where players will ring up and say, "I feel like I'm letting the club down. I'm not able to attend every week, and it's causing me stress and anxiety." So we've created. You can be a week-to-week player, or you could be a super sub. So super subs are players that can play when they're able, and they also play in a variety of different teams. So in Melbourne, we've got, I can't even tell you, a lot of teams across a lot of associations. And we might have a super sub that plays amongst all of the teams on different various nights based on when they can play. They're a really valued part of the club. We love them and we need them because week to week, being adults, you are going to find shortages. And the super sub system provides players that otherwise wouldn't be able to play because of shift work, kids, mental health issues, the ability to play, which has been great.
It's such a brilliant concept outside of basketball. It's just recognizing our lives. Like if my cricket club, for instance, had the super sub concept. I mean, I work a lot of nights. I work weekends. Cricket's traditionally train Tuesday, train Thursday, play Saturday. So real estate agents, doctors, nurses, shift workers, factory workers aren't often able to participate. But to create an opportunity where my roster says on this day, is there an option? Yeah, I'll make myself available and hopefully it'll come up. That's such a modern way of thinking about sports participation that it's just phenomenal. It's just such a great initiative.
I think sporting clubs often think about avenues for accessibility, and they think about it on a very surface level approach, whereas with our club, accessibility is a range of different things. And it might be, for example, the culture quiz. We recognise that that's a good thing, but it's not accessible enough. It needs to be done in a way that someone that has difficulty reading or writing or is visually impaired, they can access that culture quiz. So we are constantly thinking about what are the barriers that are in place that are stopping someone from attending week to week or accessing the culture quiz or figuring out who are the Bushrangers and trying to break those barriers down. And it's constant. And it's fun. Like it's not a struggle, but it's constant.
So is the experience when you do break the barriers down that more people are coming? Is that what you're finding?
Yes. So we didn't have a huge cross-section of gender diversity in the club 12 to 18 months ago. And it bothered me because I knew that those players were out there. But for whatever reason, they weren't accessing the club. So that was one of the reasons why we linked up with Transgender Vic to make sure that what we were doing was creating a space where someone that was from the gender diverse community felt comfortable coming and playing at the club. So yeah, it's also, it comes down to, I was talking about it before, about being an agent of change and doing good deeds. So if you are a member of Bushrangers Basketball, you are a shareholder in that culture of doing good stuff. So when you do good stuff, that has proven benefits to have a positive impact on your own health, not just having to run on the court, but there are health benefits for doing good things. And so that's a major driver for wanting to be in the club, in that you get the opportunity to do good stuff for other people and to make other people who hadn't otherwise felt welcome feel welcome. We're right in the midst of, because we're in isolation at the moment, thinking of ways that we can give players the opportunity to keep doing good stuff in lockdown. One of the ideas that we've come up with is an initiative called Rainbow Connections, where players from the club become pen pals with regional seniors. I can't remember the regional town now. It starts with a C. It's going to kill me later on when I can't not be able to remember. Cobor.
Cobra? Oh no, that's New South Wales. Cobra?
I've got a terrible. I don't know. Starts with a C, everybody. But yeah, we're linking up players with senior sits in regional areas to become pen pals. And most people will think, oh, isn't that great for the senior citizens? That's such a beautiful idea. what I'm doing is making sure that our players have got a positive outlet and something to do that gives them what they had, a few months ago when they were being agents of positive change when they're on the court. So it's a two-way street when it comes to good deeds. So, and that's how I've pitched it to the senior sits that are going to be doing it. They're doing good as well. They're helping out our players some of them are living alone. They're isolated, and it's an opportunity for them to have a connection that they otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, awesome. We're getting our kids to be writing letters to friends and grandparents, and it's really awesome. Yeah. Just going back to the basketball for a tick, because the journey that you take the players on, they come out and play every Sunday, skills sessions, only entering the teams in the lowest grades, and then we'll get to the social nights once a month. But so how do you take someone that's never played? What's their journey that they can go through within the club if they choose to?
So one of the things that's been supported by Vic Health is our come out and play sessions that are on pause at the moment at Carlton Baths. Come out and play sessions every Sunday, and they are 1 hour sessions for people that have never played basketball before and for people that have played basketball as well. Anyone is welcome. It's free. That was another barrier that I was really keen on ensuring that we had completely demolished, was that the financial inaccessibility of playing sport. If you are potentially someone that is impacted by the intersectional hardship of being in the community and suffering from unemployment. So free sessions designed for people that are beginners, getting people there. That's one of the barriers that we're
Let me just see if we can.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Where was I? George Costanza?
People coming. One of the biggest barriers was
one of the financial hardship and just turning up. So we're just thinking of other ways that we can onboard people into the come out and play sessions so they can see my face, see me talking, build a relationship with me before they get there, so that some of the anxiety that is around turning up and meeting new people for the first time is taken away. But yeah, the come out and play sessions have been hugely successful in Melbourne. We've had our first come out and play session in Sydney and in Tasmania. They've been run by Basketball New South Wales, Rachel Herrick, who's Dead Set legend, and David Munns from Basketball Tasmania, also a Dead Set legend. They've taken it on and run 2 sessions themselves, which has been amazing. And they've got their next session tomorrow in Hobart. And they're designed for people that aren't a member of the club potentially, that are just wanting to have a run and just to learn a little bit more about the sport.
So I'm conscious of time, but I mean, the reality is I could talk to you for hours. And
Steve.
This is a great co-presenter as well. But the benefits coming from the club are huge. Tell us a couple of the stories, maybe the story of Angel and a couple of the other benefits coming out of the club that you've seen that have affected people individually and personally.
Angel has come to the club and is playing in our mixed team. They are clearly have grown up playing in a basketball family, just an amazing basketball. If when basketball comes back Thursday night, Carlton Bars, go and watch Angel play. Just an amazing basketballer, and such a brilliant player, but didn't have a space to play previously beyond playing in our mixed team. And so one of the things that we did to help take away one of the barriers for players like Angel was to adjust the rules of mixed basketball. So previously it was very binary. I didn't know about mixed basketball previously prior to the club. I'd never played it. But you could only be in the key if at a certain time, if you're a man or woman in the first half, second half, don't quote me, it's strange rules. But the referee had to police gender throughout the game, which for players like me and for players like Angel, that's really tough, and really tough on principally myself, but also for the ref, like having to police that. It's just super stressful. It's just, in a nutshell, it's a massive bin fire. So Carlton Baths and the YMCA were super helpful in just throwing those rules in the bin and starting again, and creating a set of rules that took away binary gender, and you were just identified by a sash. You're an excluded player based on a sash, not male, female. So it opened up excluded from the key based on your sash. So it took away just a massive amount of anxiety for players that are gender diverse or transgender, where they felt like they didn't have to out themselves every week. And so there's a whole range of people that are able to play mixed basketball now in Carlton that otherwise wouldn't have been able to play. Or would be able to play, but not without massive amounts of anxiety and trauma potentially. So for me, like I would love to play mixed basketball now with those sets of rules in place. And if we were just running the club for players like Angel, it would be worth it. I'd run this whole club for Angel if that was the deal. I'd do it because it's well worth it.
Well, it's an incredible story that just keeps unfolding before our eyes. If someone that's going to go down this path and create a club for a particular group of people that are not participating, whether it's all people with disabilities, multicultural, etc., what would be some of the key tips you'd give them from your extensive learnings?
Listen to your player base and spend a lot of time in that consultation phase. Sit in uncomfortable spaces. So that was one of the things I was talking to you earlier about, Steve, before we started, was to be okay with feeling uncomfortable and understanding when you're getting something wrong, that's an opportunity to do something better. Often when someone points out to you that, hey, that way of thinking is not 100% right, or this is the impact that it could have on another person. A lot of times, if you're sitting in a place of privilege, your first reaction is, that's not what I meant, or defend that space. Whereas what should be happening as sporting groups and as peak bodies, it's sitting back and going, okay, I'm here to listen and I'm here to do better. And overwhelmingly, that is what we've found with our dealings with Basketball New South Wales, Basketball Tasmania, Basketball Victoria, and Basketball Australia. We've had some great conversations with the CEO, Joel Rector, who's been amazing in giving up her time to us. Like, we're just a little tiny tadpole, and for Joel to give us time has been just like such a catharsis for me individually, as someone that has had not the greatest of experiences in basketball. It means that we can do better as a nation playing sport in terms of celebrating the outliers and the people that hadn't previously felt welcome. So that's my biggest tips, is to sit and listen. Sit and listen.
Oh, might make my three daughters watch the end of this live stream. But as you, let me just bring up the framework as we finish. I mean, the Vic Health framework of doing sport differently, which they've created with La Trobe Uni, is just phenomenal. And if we look at the different principles, engage the market throughout the design process and reduce barriers. I mean, that's what you've been continually talking about. What are the barriers stopping people? Reduce the barriers. And it is almost, if you look at it from their perspective, whoever there is, that's your future participants, it is almost the field of dreams, build it and they will come. And that seems to be what you're experiencing. Participation, different levels, you've really targeted that, really come out and play. So encouraging people that have looked at, I think basketball is one of the biggest watch sports in the world. And so encouraging that group to either come back or try something that they've seen and loved, and take them on that journey that's fun, enjoyable, accessible. If I'm a worker that can only work, a player that can only play once every fortnight or 3 weeks, you've made that okay. Not only have you made that okay, I'm assuming at some stage as the world changes, that'll become your biggest player base probably in due course, that pathway, and you've created a sustainable model. So it's I can see why. I mean, the same as myself, I've been looking forward to this conversation for months, because there's so much that we all can learn about the journey, the sport, the audience, the way that you've created your club. So Stella, not just to you, but to your entire committee, to your community that you've created, congratulations, and thanks for sharing your story with sports community.
No worries, Steve. Thanks for having us.
And Fritz is, I know he did move there, so he's definitely alive.
He's ready to come out and play now.
Yeah, well, you've inspired him. I feel like I need to go and do that. So Stella, thank you for today. Tomorrow, what are we up to? Tomorrow's Thursday. So tomorrow we've got Isaac Dury from Tidy HQ joining us on the live stream. Friday is Esport Friday, so I have no idea what we talk about that then. And then next week we've got another action-packed list of guests. But Stella, thank you so much for sharing your story with sports community today.
You're very welcome.
And for everyone else, thank you very much for being part of our